guys, it's ToriAnn Perkey here. From my homeschool to your homeschool, can we get real for just a moment? Do your kids ever seem like they're too sensitive? You know, maybe they cry at the drop of a hat, or maybe they're just always bugged or bothered, or maybe they get super overwhelmed really easily and fall apart when you ask them to do the smallest thing. Okay, if that's you, then you and we have similar kids. I have several children who easily get overwhelmed, and when they were little, and even now that they're older, they cry all the time sometimes. And I used to be so frustrated. I think, what is wrong with you? Just, suck it up. And this is not that hard. And I have to admit, those phrases came out of my mouth. I would be so, I don't want to say unkind, but just, not very sensitive. I would be frustrated that they weren't doing the things I asked them to do, and they just seemed like they were just so fragile. And then I found a book that described my kids. And when I read it, I felt like the doors were opened, and I had a new vision of who my kids were and why they were like that. And I was able to change some of my behaviors, and oh my goodness, things got so much easier. So the book is called The Highly Sensitive Child, and it is by Elaine Aron. And you can tell I have read this book so many times. I have it posted noted. I have writing in it. This book changed the way I parent my sensitive children. And the reason is because she goes through and talks about how some percentage of the human population, just like the same percentage, and it's about 20% of the entire mammal population, are more aware of their surroundings. They're what she calls highly sensitive, which means that in any given moment where a average or normal, and I put those in quotes because we have to be really careful how we describe that, but an average or normal person might be pulling in 10 bits of information. A highly sensitive person might be bringing in 50 bits of information or 100 bits of information. And it's all coming in and it's getting mixed up in the brain, and the brain has to process the amount of information that's taken in. Well, if you're only bringing in 10 bits of information and you have to process those, you can process that at a certain amount, a certain speed. But people who are highly sensitive and children who are highly sensitive, when they bring in 100 bits of information, the brain actually kind of gets clogged up. You can almost imagine like an assembly line where pieces start to back up and then the machine just breaks because there's so much clogging up the machine. And when your kids get overwhelmed or they start to cry or they fall apart, it's because they are stimulated to the point where they can't handle it anymore. And this changed the way I parented because I realized that I was part of the problem when I was constantly talking or constantly giving information or asking them to do too much. I was giving them so much stimulus. These particular children of mine, they couldn't handle it. And it's not a right or a wrong. It was just a different amount that they can handle. There are so many beautiful things I learned about my children in this book as well. Things that make highly sensitive people more empathetic, more able to see what's going on, more able to read a room. There's so many beautiful traits in highly sensitive people that I was completely missing because I was so focused on the fact that they couldn't handle as much as I thought they should handle. So if I'm describing a kid that you think you might have, and you've never learned about highly sensitive people, or another way that she describes it are HSP people, I would recommend that you take some time to read this book. Not all HSP are introverts or extroverts. They run the gamut of all different personality types. It really does have to do with how much stimulus and information an individual can process, not because they are smarter or dumber or whatever, but because of how much more certain people are taking in. This book, guys, if this is a situation you might be having, it's going to change your world. It's going to rock your world like it rocked mine. Go get the book.